the massacre that has already taken place until that is dealt with legally and the people who committed that murder are brought to justice, or the role of the government is defined, that you're suggesting that it is then illegal under current law for us to sell arms to Iraq? Is that?
May I just clarify?
Yes.
For 4 years, I had the delegated responsibility for arms transfers as Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs. Under Section 3 of the Arms Export Control Act, every recipient of U.S. defense equipment is required to utilize that equipment only for the purposes that it was transferred. And whenever there is a question of not using the equipment in accordance with the terms of transfer, the State Department is usually required to file a Section 3 report to the Congress that explains the circumstances that have called into question the use of the equipment, and in the event the law does point to a cutoff of arms in the extreme case that an egregious misuse of weapons. That's a very rare occurrence. I saw it once, I think, in 1982, when Secretary Weinberger found a casing of cluster munitions on a pile of, appeared on the New York Times in a pile of rubble in Beirut, and he terminated weapons to Israel until such time as they worked it out with the Americans.
We now have a video of our arms shooting down innocent women and children and Iraqi army officers engaged in aiming their rifles and shooting the gun themselves, that we don't retaliate at all against that.
It's open-ended. The State Department is not always the fastest agency to answer the mail, and Section 3 reports have been known to take months to deliver.
Well, Ambassador Bloomfield made it a point to suggest that he had studied the background of the MEK, and that he believed that even the MEK of 30 years ago was not, and it has been adjudicated by whom, that they were not terrorists even to that point?
There's a 140-page judgment in the British court system that goes into great detail. There's a ruling by the counterterrorism magistrate in France this past April. They both consistently judged that terrorism is not the characterization for the activity that's been criticized.
Let me ask you about
There's a gap.
Mr. Ambassador. We had a witness here from the State Department, and his main testimony, the major part of it, was a history of the MEK. And where did you find areas of disagreement with that history?
I don't want to focus solely on Ambassador Freed, who's a colleague and someone I've admired. He's trying very hard to do it.
But we know we can disagree with someone and still respect them.
I think that the position he was repeating, it was consistent with his department's position. And I think the box that the State Department stands in is the one that says the other side of the conflict. I'm just looking at acts of violence by one group. Here's what they did on that date. Here's what they did on this date. Nobody's disputing that armed resistance was part of the MEK's history. The question is, how did it start? What was their purpose in the past century? You know that when the colonial era started to end, countries were nationalizing oil. And Iran had a group of students that wanted to have their own autonomy. They didn't want to be dependent on foreign powers. They'd had a serious issue with Russia going back many years. And, of course, the coup against Mossadegh, who was a nationalist, restored the Shah to power. These were intellectuals, and even you can read the papers. It's on the record of this hearing. You can click on all the links, and you'll see that in 1980, Masood Rajavi had thousands of students on the lawn at Sharif University listening to him quote all the political philosophers, probably on the liberation side of post-colonial liberation. So we can have a dispute over whether we had the identical politics or not. But that was the genesis of the group. They believed in something. They didn't believe in violence. They believed in rights-based democracy.
Sheila Jackson-Lee, who's not a member of this committee, who wanted to come in and make a statement and we were just running out of time, but I wanted to give her at least some time to get something in. And right there at the end, I think that was very profound, the point she made, and I wonder what you would thought of that, is that the suggestion that the president not meet with Maliki until he's agreed to at least extend the deadline on Camp Ashraf. What are all three of your opinions of that suggestion? Go right ahead, Colonel.
Sure.